Patience. It's an incredibly simple word that's very, very difficult to practice in real life. And this year is certainly beginning to look like an exercise in patience. You know, we've spent the last 4 months preparing for this season, getting everything ready. We've spent all of our time in preparation, making sure that this is the best crop that we've ever planted in our entire lives. And while sitting here on April 15th to 20th with cool, wet soils is nothing new for us, we do have some additional challenges this year that we have to face as we prepare to get this crop in the ground and up and growing. I'm Keith Byerly, Precision Ag Manager at Central Valley Ag, and this is your agronomy focus that corresponds with my article on the CVA website. So this year offers some unique challenges from the patient standpoint, especially as we transition to the northern territories of CVA, where we still have some field work to get done. So that's the first lesson in patience that I want to talk about right now. We need to stay out of these fields while they're wet. We have really good soil moisture on a lot of these fields, but with that soil moisture also comes some opportunities to increase our compaction that we have to deal with later on in the season. So lesson number one in patience this year: stay the heck out of these fields when they're too wet to be in, because we don't want to mud these crops in, we don't want to create tracks spreading fertilizer, and we certainly don't want to create a hard pan doing any spring tillage right now. So as we transition over to talk about the planting aspect of this, these cool wet soils, like I said before, are nothing new to us. Here at the Bellwood site, where our innovation plots will be this year, we dealt with the exact same thing last year. On April 17th, we got started on this field with planting, and we made a few rounds before darkness overtook us and we decided to come back tomorrow. Then the drizzle started, and it was about a week before we got back into this field to plant again. In that week, the soil temperatures cooled, and when we got back to this field on the 26th of April, planting conditions were certainly not the best. It was a little wet, it was a little tacky, and the soil was cool. We made 2 rounds and got the heck out of here. Then when the conditions finally turned to right, it was May 12th before we got this crop planted, and we had soil conditions that were right, a soil temperature was right, and we were planting into soils that were warming up. When we talk about the yield that we saw last year with those planting dates, there were some things that really stuck out about it. The difference between the April 26th and the May 12th planting was only 2 bushel. And the reason for that was really that our soils didn't cool down. We planted corn into ground that stayed cool and wet, and the seed never had a chance to germinate, so there really wasn't any big differences in growing that crop from that point on. Where we did see a big difference, 12 bushel, was the difference between that May 12th planting and the April 17th planting. We yielded 12 more bushel by waiting for soil that was right, soil that was warming to plant that crop in and to get that crop out of the ground for the year. So my take home for you today is a lesson in patience. If I could have you do just one thing right now, it would be to get the calendar off of your phone, take the calendars down off the wall at home, and throw those things away. I want you to completely forget about calendar date and make all your decisions from here out this spring based on what the soil dictates and what the weather dictates. We have the opportunity to have tremendous yields yet for this year. When I talk about last year, the difference of that patience, the difference in waiting and planting into a warming soil was $40 an acre that we took off of that crop from the get-go. We don't want to see that repeated again this year. So don't lose faith and don't lose patience. Wait for those right conditions, because I can tell you last year on May 7th, I saw a grower plant 112-day corn into a field, and that corn yielded over 300 bushel an acre. We can still achieve our maximum yields and have the best harvest that we've ever had if we wait for the soil and the weather to be in our favor.